Saram, uncles, aunties, brothers and sisters. So today's message actually touches on a few topics that are a bit, I think it's intertwined, it's interconnected, and which sort of resonate with me at this point in my life. The first is on Dharma, and the second is about the purpose of life. I don't need to be something so serious, but and then I'll explain why there's a bit of a backstory to this as well. So in terms of purpose of life, how Swami has mentioned on multiple occasions why human life is a golden opportunity for us to attain liberation. So I thought it would be good for me to set the scene a little bit before I go into the message from Swami himself. So the first topic, on the topic of Dharma. So this, obviously Swami has mentioned this many times, but for me personally, it actually was something that was ingrained in me in my schooling days, directly through my father. So my father is a very simple example of this. There were many examples, but one example was, so he was the center chairman in Swami. And I will remember two distinct things he would always do, among many things. After every bhajan, he would be the last to leave. Because he said, as the center chairman's job, I have to make sure everything is okay before I leave. And the second part was, sometimes when it comes to youth activities, sometimes participation is not the greatest. But my father always made sure he was there for youth activities because, again, it was his duty. So that was something that I learned directly through experience early in my life. So the second part is around this purpose of life and attaining liberation. So this is the backstory here. So about 2 years ago, I had a bit of a health issue scare. And also, unrelated to that was the fact that I was getting married. But they kind of came together at the same time. And Swami says this again, right? Relationships that we have in this life are this is not real, right? The relationships we have with our children, our spouse, our parents, all of that is important, but the Atma is not the relationships we have. So then I thought to myself, if you follow that line of questioning, then what's the point of getting married? That was the question. Why take on more relationships if that's not real? And in fact, there's a line in the Dharma Vahini, which is what I'll be reading after this, where Swami says, literally he says, liberation cannot be won by, among other things, progeny, children. So again, questions, this came later. So now let me read this part in the Dharma Vahini, and I'm sure there's many of us here who will be part of the sadhana that completed recently. There's a few things that link these two topics together, and I'll try not to be too long. So this was the topic of the stages of life. So this is Swami's words here. The stages of life regulating man's life are four: student, householder, forest dweller, and renunciate. They are all based on but he says this, they are all based on the householder stage of life. That is the chief stage, because the householder fosters the other three. The householder is the most important of all. Relating to this and to the earlier inquiries, sorry, bear with me as I jump around a little bit. Swami says again, in the Manu texts, in the Narada ascetic, and other such texts, it is mentioned in some instances the householder who adheres to Dharma is reckoned as the highest type of person, while in other texts, it is laid down that only sages who have renounced everything deserve worship. Therefore, doubt may arise whether one can adopt the householder stage of life, which is the base and support of all, or whether one has to take up the universally honored stage of renunciate, the inward path of detachment. So this was to my question of how, again, if human life is so important, we should make the most of this human life to attain liberation. What can we do? Should we, again, become a renunciate and run off to the forest? And again, should we take on more attachment? That was the question. So Swami also goes on to answer this in a few excerpts which I'll read down here. So he says, all four stages will lead you to liberation if you follow strictly the Dharma as laid down for each and devote yourself steadfastly to your uplift. Speaking forward, have you noted what the Gita, the essence of all Upanishads, has to say on this point? Those who are ever active in the spiritual field, in whatever stage of life they may be, whatever their caste, they attain the Lord. Now, then Swami says, castes like Brahmin, colors like white and black, stages of life like student, etc., referring to the 4 stages. These are physical conditions and not the characteristics of the Atma. They are conditioned by time and place. They belong to this world of bondage and are governed by reasons related to this world. And this point, as Ganeshan mentioned, we must listen to every word that Swami says. They are ordained by the divine will for the orderly functioning of the world. Dharma enables the Atma to be realized without any mist or fog hiding it from view. The practice of Dharma fills you with experience. Through that experience, truth is established, the truth reveals clearly, and the vision grants liberation. Context again. Those who have attachment and hatred, even if they dwell in the forest, cannot escape harm. Those who have conquered the senses, even if they are householders, can be ascetics. The home is the hermitage for attaining non-attachment. So it's building up to the point. Attention fixed on one's Atma, that is the means of liberation. Understanding this lesson of the Vedas, practicing the principles of living laid down for the particular stage of one's life, anyone, whatever the caste, can attain the highest stage. This is the key line. If there is the will and strength to adhere strictly to Dharma, if there are no difficulties in acquiring wisdom, one can remain a householder and yet be liberated without entering the stage of renunciation. Kingly sages like King Janaka, Aswapadi, and Dilipa reached the goal while continuing in the householder stage. While in that stage, they struggled and succeeded in removing all obstacles that hindered the winning of the grace of the Lord. They had as the goal the Godhead they wanted, therefore they do not doubt it. The stage of householder is no hindrance. So to me, reading this, and with all the questions that I had, it felt like Swami was somewhat answering my questions directly. Because he says here very clearly, you do not have to run off to the forest, you do not have to give up your relationships, you do not have to you basically can continue your duty. You should continue your duties in your current circumstances and attain liberation and pursue your goal, your spiritual journey. But again, on this point, I think there's one line he mentions here, which is, if there's will and strength to adhere strictly to the Dharma, he also mentions, if there are no difficulties in acquiring wisdom, which means to me, again, I read it as, that means the pursuit of wisdom is not just for Dharma, but the pursuit of wisdom is equally important. So, taking a step back, or sort of relating that to my life, or as a summary, I should say, what is the summary here? I think the first important thing is, regardless of the stage of life that we are in, Swami is saying that you can still attain liberation. You still can progress regardless of the stage of life, attain liberation. How does that, again, taking that to my personal experiences, for me, when I was thinking about this and writing some notes here, I thought in the context of the workplace, which is where I spend 8 to 10 hours every day, and most of us, again, students, it can be employees or workers. For me, I don't think it's just about doing my duty to be the best possible employee. I think it's also about doing my duty, making sure I do my duty in order to, again, to progress on my spiritual journey. But it's also about doing my duty to be the best devotee that I can be to Swami, to lead and to to practice his teachings. And on that front, I will be honest, I did try during Navaratri too, in the first message that you shared about giving up a bad quality. So I have tried to not be so judgmental, which is challenging in the workplace. But that is a journey that I'm on. And I think hopefully today's message is something that we can take back. It's a little bit practical. And it essentially is about Swami saying that regardless of where we are in life, we can continue to progress on our journey.
I have a question. When you talk about liberalization, right, how do you react in conflicting situations in your life journey?
conflicting life journeys.
No, in your conflicting situations that you know you're trying to achieve spiritualism, but you have so many other things that is clouding you. And how does that approach? How?
I didn't know it was a question and answer session.
No, because I know it's a share.
Let's give him some. Yeah. I think I can put it back to my workplace right now. So really, I appreciate things. So I try not to judge people, not to get angry, not to get frustrated in the workplace. And sometimes it's very hard because you're surrounded with colleagues, and it's natural for us to. I don't want to use the wrong one. But I don't want to use. You want to complain, huh? You want to complain amongst ourselves, but you know you shouldn't talk ill, right? So that's a conflict.
You hold back.
I try. I fail. But I try. I think. I'll be honest. I try and I fail, but I think this to bring it back. I think that's why being surrounded by people who are on your spiritual journey helps. I think helps to bring you back, recharge you, refocus you. Because it's easy, right, in the working world to just get pulled out, you get sucked into negative traits, negative qualities. You forget your promises, your vows, what you're supposed to do. So that's my
Very good.